Which
Meow.
who said that? I didn't say that on recording. You did.
I hate you.
How often do you say that in the rain response?
Not that
Not that
often.
often.
I feel like I'm nice-ish.
I was gonna I was gonna say which player is gonna see our video this time since Claudia saw the last one. All right. Goodness, welcome back to Right as Rain. Bella and Charles are back for a win show. We had four matches to talk about the last time, so it was like there were wins in there. But um this it was just a whole kind of weird weekend for the Rain, right? Because I think even during the pre-match press conference that the Rain had with the media, Laura talked about. I think Susie from Sounder Heart Ride of Valkyries mentioned that the weather tends to be pretty unique when they go to racing, right? Sure enough, that match initially the match was scheduled for Friday, right? And it got pushed back to Saturday, which was tough because Laura revealed that I think post match after the match on Saturday that the players had all like fueled up and they were like physically preparing to head to the stadium, and then they were told that they weren't. So it's like all of this, you prepare your body, and then you just have to wait it out. And they played at
However,
10 a.m.
as weather delays go,
Mm.
like normally the weather delays are like you've played 15 minutes and then there's a lightning strike and you have to wait 3 hours until you play again. So like
Yeah.
even though like yes, it is frustrating, the fact that they knew the game was actually moved before they had started playing, I think is like it like of the weather delays you could get, this is one of the better ones, right? Like
Yeah.
you knew there was a tornado warning, you knew that it was moved to tomorrow. Like yes, you had fueled up and everything, but you hadn't started warming up. You hadn't left the hotel. Like, is it ideal? No. Is it better than some of the other situations them and other teams have been in? Absolutely.
This is true. This is very true. Um, yeah, it was certainly one of the more unique ones because I feel like I hadn't heard anything a bunch. And then, it's funny, have all of the like live updates things. Oh, there's Has on my phone about the match. And it was just like, no, nothing's happening. Why isn't anything happening? So, yeah, we'll get into this one. Seattle wins in familiar fashion, the one goal decides the match sort of thing. And I was kind of talking to someone on our Blue Sky about this. But they weren't necessarily happy with the way that the results have been going, and I understand probably wanting to win by more. I just feel a bit better right now, obviously, than last year generally. But considering the amount of games that they lost by a goal last year, right? Like there are instances where, sometimes it's luck, right? Sometimes it's the way the ball bounces, but sometimes it legitimately is you aren't a team that's able to get over the hump in that regard to win the close games. And, you know, not touch wood, as Laura would say. She says touch wood. It's not knock on wood. They've been doing that so far. They would like to keep doing that, but you know, so far they have. Maddie Darlene scores in the 38th minute, so the Maddie Darlene hype train continues. I did pick her as our key player to watch, so but it's an interesting match. I was very stressed out for most of it because as Bella was curious about the defending in this one. Um, and yeah, like I don't know. Bella, I know you've been doing a ton, right? Bella's been doing a lot. Um, God bless her for dealing with my ass trying to continue to do this show as much as, but you have since seen this match. What did you see from it? What did you take away from it? It is a win, but obviously it's one that they'd like to be better from.
Yeah, it's a tough one because on the one hand you're happy they got the result. On the other hand, it was not the most enjoyable to watch. Um, and I think there are positives and negatives to that. Um, I think a big positive to take away is that they didn't create a lot of chances, but they scored when they did create a chance. And that is something that had been sorely missing in the past. They had 4 total shots, 3 were on target, 1 was a goal. And it seemed like for a lot of the game, their game plan was to sit back really deep and just absorb a lot of pressure. And if you look at the Opta stats about players and their average positions, all of the Racing players are in the Reign's defensive half, and all of the Reign's players are in the Reign's defensive half. Like that is how much the Reign were spending in their own half. And it's not super fun to watch your team just defend forever and have the other team have 62% possession and 20 shots. 20 shots is an insane amount of shots. At the same time, from those shots, Opta only has that as 1.02 expected goals compared to the Reign's 0.85. So I think that says a lot about the quality of shots that Louisville was facing. Only one of their shots was on target. Claudia didn't have to do a whole lot other than, dealing with those crosses in the wind, which I think it was hard to tell on TV. And it kind of just looked like she was making mistakes. But really, when you're a goalkeeper and the wind is messing with those crosses, it is incredibly difficult to judge them. And I do think they got lucky on a couple of them, but I think, she managed to adjust herself well. But the the amount of chances that Racing created, as much as none of them resulted in a goal, it does feel like a concerning amount of chances were created. Laura said after the game that she thought her team defended really well. And in some cases, I do agree. But at the same time, it's hard to say that 20 shots is good defending, right? At some point, you want to stop those shots from happening.
Yeah.
And part of that was obviously just Racing having so much of the possession, but even just like passes in the final third, Racing had 191. Guess how many the Reign had?
Uh, Somewhere around maybe 20.
53.
Okay.
That's still like 25% of what Racing had. Racing had 33 crosses attempted. The
Jesus.
Reign had 1. Louisville had 12 corners. The Reign had 1. So like I'm torn because on the one hand you want your team to be gritty and be able to tough out those games when they aren't pretty, and you have to do a lot of defending and just take advantage of your chances. And massive credit to Maddie Darlene for scoring that goal. Beautiful ball in from Sam Meza after she had sort of had a similar opportunity earlier in the game and had put it too far behind Maddie. So she didn't have the same ability to run onto it like she did with the chance that she scored on. But I think the question becomes, how many of the games are you going to win like that?
Ah,
I think you can only do it so often and so much before it gets sort of exhausting as a player, right? Like these are talented players who want the ball at their feet, who want to, pass it around and have some possession and be able to put their high press on. And with Louisville, we saw a little bit of the press, but not really that much because, they were more like, let's kind of just stay within our own half. And, I think they did a really good job of containing Savannah DeMello. I think anytime Savannah DeMello looked to make a really dangerous run with the ball, Sam Meza or Anghra James Turner were there to just slow her down, divert her, anything to prevent her from getting the kind of space that she likes to operate in. So it's it's like on one hand they did do a good job defensively. They didn't let in any goals. It's not like Racing had particularly high quality chances. I think there were a couple where it looked like they got really lucky that no one was on the end of a cross. It was stressful to watch. Even my mom noticed. Like if my mom notices, this is a woman who literally during the game, I told her that like Sam and Maddie scored in transition, and she's like, "What does it mean to score in transition?"
Oh,
I love my mother, but please, you have been a season ticket holder for like 5 years now, and you don't know what scoring in transition is. Like, have I done a bad job? But I think it's good to be able to win like that, but I just don't think you can do that an entire season.
it's
And
not
I
sustainable.
no, and I feel like a lot of the games have been that, right? That was the Kansas City game, although arguably they created more chances against Kansas City. But
Yeah.
similar in the Bay game, like they've been outpossessed a lot. Um, so sometimes it works out for you and you put away your one chance. But I'm just cautious of how much it continues to happen. Obviously they're scoring more than they did last year, which is great, but they're not scoring that much more. Like, so I don't know if it's, you know, putting so much focus on the defense that the offense is sort of not getting the focus it needs. But at the same time, you really need to play good defense to win games. And we know Laura Harvey is a defensive minded coach, and she's a very brilliant defensive minded coach. Like there's a reason that her teams have been very successful playing that way. But I do hope to see just more of the offensive flair of this team. It was I was kind of surprised they didn't really get Lynn in behind with how high Racing Louisville was playing their line. Obviously, Maddie's chance was kind of getting her in behind, so that one did work out. Um, but I do think there needs to be some level of like, yes, this is how your defense needs to play every game, but you don't want to defend for 80% of the game. Like that's exhausting. And you have really brilliant players on the ball. I mean, G didn't even play in this game. I was shocked to see her not
Yeah.
start, let alone not even come off the bench. And especially because she's a good defender. She puts in a strong defensive shift when she plays, surprisingly so. I'm always pleasantly surprised by how fast she is. Um, and so I just wonder how can they get some of those more creative players to be able to have that space to use that creativity and find Lennon behind and have more than just one of those chances, or two. So I think it's a very good win. They've talked about wanting to be able to get those gritty wins. That is a big thing for them. I think that's the mark of good professionals. But I do think, as someone who used to be on soccer teams that really sucked, and I was in goal just being pelted with shots, and
Guys,
it was like I could make
jeez.
20. It was like I could make 20 saves and still like let 3 goals in, and I would just be like, I can't do this. Like it just gets a little exhausting. And I was in high school, and this is a very different level, but I imagine it's similar as a professional, right? Like you want to do the other things you're good at too. You don't want to defend the whole game. No one wants to defend the whole game. You'll do it if you have to, but how many times are they going to have to?
Yeah, it's so I looked at the fixtures while you were speaking, right?
Hmm.
They've scored more than one goal once in North Carolina. They've conceded more than one goal once, the Angel City match,
Yep.
right? They like so far, if you're watching the Seattle Reign 2025, you're not getting high action per se in terms of the score. That is
No.
just not happening.
You are
Their
not getting
last
the Washington Spirit results that are happening week in, week out.
no. Um Goodness, so what is this? Three so five of the last six matches they've played, it ended up in a 1-0 result. With Seattle winning four of those. So like oh no, sorry, three of those. So great, but also like yeah, it is yeah, no, it's not sustainable. And I know I feel bad because I want to like I need to have a soundboard of Laura isms. I just need the goals change games. quality. I can do this. Yeah, we could do this.
I actually think this is a terrific idea.
The Laura soundboard, would she kill me for doing that though? Um,
She might think it's kind of funny.
I think I just have to have the moose present again, and she would feel fine about it. Um, yeah, I don't know. We're what, 9 matches into the season?
Bro, I couldn't tell you.
Um, bruh.
I feel like
But
8 because I feel like we were at 7 last
nope,
time.
nine,
Damn.
nine. So you're 9 matches into the season, so it's like, I can. Oh, Jesus Christ.
And you're in playoff position.
You are
You're like you one more win and you jump a ton of
just
spaces.
third. You go
Like
to third. Yeah.
in terms of like overall
Mm.
results, like this is the kind of improvement you want to see from last season, right? Because defending is
Yes.
what killed them so many times. The
Yeah.
question is, can they put it together with the offensive improvements and player additions that they've made,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Because Maddie and Lynn,
Yes.
they are terrific defenders, right? I think Jordan Heidema has put in so much defensive effort, and she deserves a lot of praise for that. But you also need to score goals, and you know that they want to score goals. And, you know, you sign Lynn Biondolo to do a lot of things, but you don't sign her just to defend. You sign Lynn Biondolo because you want someone to score goals. And right now, Maddie Darlene is the team's leading goal scorer because she is the only player with more than one goal scored this season, with two. Like that is how small the goal scoring has been. And it's great you're getting wins. It really, really is. And I think that's great for their motivation and their confidence. But we've seen them in the past get frustrated when they're creating chances and the goals aren't happening.
Yeah.
And even more frustrated when they're not creating chances. Like Laura has talked about, like, if we win a game 1-0, but we're not creating a lot of chances, I'll be happy in the moment, but I probably won't be very happy afterward. I'd be happier if we were creating a lot of chances and didn't score, because you need to give yourself chances. You just do. It's great if you can finish those individual chances. And I think the team has been good and maybe a little bit lucky at finishing some of those chances this season. But for with all the, again, creative players that they have, you feel like they would be creating more chances. Like I almost feel like they were creating more chances earlier in the season.
Really.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why. Maybe I'm incorrect in that, but like I feel like there was maybe a little more confidence going
Mhm.
forward. And the defensive focus is important, but I do feel like there's just something, the balance is just slightly off. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that the team is aware of that. Um, and they talk about getting these gritty wins after the fact. Like there's been multiple times the post game where they come in and they're just like, yeah, these are the gritty wins you have to be able to get. You do have to be able to get those, but you're going to get exhausted if that's all you're doing, right? Like it's not like you're trying to win every game 4-0. That's not going to happen.
No.
But you do want to have some cushion in some games, or at least hold possession so that you're not defending the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so much of, like, just what would look like exhausting defending. And credit to the players, they did do a good job. They blocked a lot of shots. You know, there wasn't anything super dangerous for Claudia to deal with, but I do think it's not just it's not going to get you through an entire season.
Mm.
I do think it is the kind of win you need to get in playoffs, right? Like I think that's incredibly important. You see a lot of results be like that in playoffs when teams are, you know, trying to move on and it's one and done. But they're going to have to get some wins that aren't like this,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. I've said this. I said this on, I think, our Sounders show, but so often I feel like I am the optimist. Um, and just hearing you talk through it, right, and kind of thinking through how this has gone, um, I feel all right because I mean, if this is you working through your like figuring it out, right, and
Yeah,
it's not certainly ideal, but if you're like you're talking about getting the wins and getting the gritty wins, right? Like if you're getting the wins while you're completing the puzzle, great. That's what, teams who have the higher aspirations do,
right.
So yeah, but I do understand it. It's just like, hey, you have to get clicking a little bit here. Yeah, you can't continue to do this like as you mentioned, everything I feels like we've been talking about, whether it's me and you or hearing it in the pressers, right? With like talking about the defense. I talked to Maddie Curry. I gotta write that up. God damn it. I talked to Maddie Curry the other day at open training. Very nice human being. Weird that she's a year older than me. Don't like it.
Let's not talk
Um
about that.
you do it 24 years old. Um, talking about Scott Parkinson and how he's helped. Like I saw Scott personally. I was watching an open media training, how he was Phoebe loves to get extra help after these. And I should do a story on that. Um, but anyway, it feels like the emphasis so much around this club, at least in my lens, has been about the defensive work, and that's great. But yeah, it shouldn't have to be that unit shouldn't have to be as strained as much as it has late. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say late.
I mean,
Throughout the
I, I
season.
I wouldn't say it's like ring the alarm bells, right?
Yeah, no,
You're still, what, a third of the way through the season, something like that. Like you have some time, and I do think that having good defense is a great foundation, right? That is again what like great Laura Harvey teams have been built on. I think of the team that won the Shield. Like they scored some goals, don't get me wrong, but they needed to defend as well. And Laura's always been big in defense, and because it was such a massive issue last year, I think they focused a lot on it, and they've needed to. But then they also talked in the offseason about bringing in those attackers and those scoring options, and haven't quite fit them in yet. Like I really I think Lynn Biondolo has been fantastic, and she had no shots in the last game. And I think she had like one in the game previous. Like when you have a player like that, you need to get her opportunities. And Laura knows that too. The team knows that. They want to get her more opportunities. And I'm just hoping that they can sort of suss that out and get themselves together on that sooner rather than later. Because once you get to the latter part of the season, you're going to run out of time eventually. And yes, she's on a 2 year contract, and she or 3 year contract, 2 year, 3 year, one of those. She'll be back.
uh, yeah,
She's not going anywhere in the immediate future. Um, and they've talked about this being a building year, not necessarily thinking they're gonna.
that's
We
right.
talked about this last
Yeah.
week, not necessarily thinking they're gonna win the championship this year, but I do want to start seeing more of those pieces come together. Right? You've got the defensive piece down, and yeah, you got to improve little things, sure, but defense wasn't the only issue last year. Offense was as well, which was kind of the problem, is that both were an issue. So
Both bad.
like I don't mind defense being the focus. I'm a massive defense fan. I like was watching the Storm the other day. I was like, they're not really the team to watch if you want like amazing offensive things, but if you want to watch some of the best individual defenders in the WNBA, watch Gabby Williams and Skylar Diggins
Oh,
and Ezzy Magbagor. Like and I love watching that. I really do. I love watching Lauren Barnes make slide tackles. I love watching how smart Jordan Bugg has been with her positioning. Phoebe McClernand has been fantastic. I really loved what Madison Curry has been doing as well. I think there are so many great defenders and great defensive things happening everywhere. James Turner, Meza, like literally everyone. And I just hope that they can find a way to balance it a little bit better
yeah.
for themselves and for the results and for fans. I think fans want to see some offense. They want to see some excitement. And I don't want to say that they should play in a specific way because of fans, because really you're playing to win. But I do think there just needs to be a little more balance, and maybe overcompensating a little bit just because of how much the defense struggled last year. And I don't know for sure. Obviously, I'm not there. But we have heard a lot about how much effort they've put into the defense and how much work they've put into it. So I hope that at least like 75% of that same effort is also going into the offense
Mm.
and how to get opportunities out of that defense. Right? I think like the goal against Louisville was a good example was, you know, they played good defense, and then when Sam Meza had the opportunity and she saw the space, she played Maddie in, and that was great. But I think that they can do more of that. Like they have even if they're defending a lot, I still feel like they can create more chances. And I just hope to see that. But love all of
It's
them. So
yeah, no, I think
also
the
Laura knows better than me, so I should just shut up. But
we'll have her call you out again on the training ground again and
yeah,
just see how that goes.
I'm not getting her in trouble this time. So like,
Well, I do want to bring up part of the wait, what is I don't know. We'll get to that. Um, yeah. No, I don't know. It is important to kind of like I think the way I'd very like man simplify it is, hey, this is something to acknowledge, this is something to note. You've got to track it and see if this is, reality for this team. This is just they're gonna have to grind out to just barely get the quality get the soundboard. Get the soundboard.
I don't. Yeah, I
Um
think she'd be more insulted by you trying to do her accent than
yep,
like an
no, I've
actual
learned to
Vanga
just kind of
recording of her.
stop doing it.
That's good. That's
Um
smart.
Uh, but just to get a goal and then maybe two. Um, or
Because
if
what
it's
happens? Here's
just
my question: what happens if Louisville had scored?
uh
Right? Like, do you then have the energy left, or are you creating enough chances then to get a goal and go ahead? Like, I think North Carolina was a bit of an odd one because it was a beautiful build up to the first goal, and then Jordan Buggs was like out of nowhere,
yeah.
like a poorly cleared or maybe it was passed back to her. I don't quite recall, off a corner kick, and just an absolute banger from distance. But it wasn't like they had necessarily created that chance. Like that's a once in a season type goal. And if she wants to score three more, I'm here for it. However, I don't think it's particularly
However,
so. Like my main concern is if that defense didn't hold up like it did. Same thing against Kansas City. Like they had the goal that was scored that was called back. If that goal hadn't been
uh,
called back, do they have enough going forward to then to get a go ahead goal? And that's where I think it was like against Bay, they had enough to get that tying goal, but they couldn't really find a second. Right? Against Portland, they couldn't find a second. And Portland put them under a lot of pressure. And teams are
and
going to continue to put them under pressure. And
yep,
and so what's gonna, are you just gonna then settle for a 1-1 tie? They're not really Laura's not the type to settle for a tie. She's just
mm-mm.
not. Not
I
until it's
think
like the last minute of stoppage time will she say, "Hey, don't let them score."
yeah, I think even after the Portland match, if I remember correctly from post match, she was pretty upset that they didn't get second one, if I remember
Yeah,
properly. I mean, like
yeah,
normally she is, but I remember that like maybe a little bit more clearly for some reason. I don't know.
yeah. She talked about some sort of heart and mouth moments, being a little bit stressed, and how maybe she wouldn't have been if they had gotten a second goal when they were creating a lot of opportunities in that first half. And when you don't get that second goal, you also it gives the other team some confidence, right? It makes them feel like they're still in the game, because they are still in the game. So as much as the defense has been good, is it going to hold up enough to continue getting 1-0 results? Because that's a tough thing to do.
It's a tough ask.
So I'm curious to see how that sort of develops over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, there's the international break in there. See how that affects things. Hopefully, everyone comes back healthy. Yeah, knock on the bald head.
That is a great segue. We'll look at the yeah. No, I think maybe to lead into the sort of internationals because the Reign have, oh God, I don't know what the final number is. I think it's like
12. I believe it's
12.
12 is the
Yeah.
last number I saw.
Um, 12 internationals. So Jesus Christ. But also, yes, I was at was at open media training on Tuesday. Um, excuse me. I don't know why I didn't just say yesterday at this point, but hey, my sense of time is all messed up. I kind of forgot that the match was at the same time as the Storm game, and Bella yesterday was texting me. Whatever. Um, and so one of the interesting notes, I still don't have proper clarification on this because I was told what was happening, but I was like so busy rushing to tell Bella about it that I lost the train of thought. Because so I got up to open media training. Essentially, I am a psychopath, which can be just said in a vacuum. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I like to get places early, as Bella painfully knows. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm about half an hour early before Laura's supposed to get out there to speak with us. To whatever media goes out to open media training. Anna Maria Srnagorcevic, who will join Switzerland. Right?
Switzerland.
Switzerland, was out there with some of the other technical staff um, for about half an hour, and did not train with the main group, which was fascinating to me. I'm like, is she hurt? Like, did something happen that I missed? And I was told, again, this is paraphrasing, so please don't use this verbatim, that she was training and going to leave earlier to join Switzerland, and she's going to miss this match against the Spirit. I asked Laura this so we could like get it on the record, and I don't know if you remember, Bella. I'll look at my otter, but I don't think Laura confirmed that. It was interesting. Oh yeah, then I asked about Sophia. We'll get to Sophia in a second.
I mean, what I can say while you're looking is, as much as you never really want to be missing a player, at least it's not like one of your normal inked in starters.
yeah. Uh,
um, she's an important piece off the bench, and I want to give her credit for how she's helped this team. But with all the teams preparing for the Euros, my guess is it has something to do with that, and also just the fact that the travel is so far. I don't know where they're playing, um, but it it could be worse, especially considering the sheer number of internationals that are going during the break. I believe they're the team with the most out of any NWSL club. Um, so not exactly sure what will happen with that. I'm, honestly more interested to see Jess Fishlock and Norelia Monjasir back because you said Laura said on Tuesday that they will both definitely be available
yep.
for the game against the Spirit. And, I think we've seen the past few games pretty much consistently the same starters, same formation, and pretty similar subs as well. Although we did see Emily Mason against Louisville, and we hadn't seen her in a little while. Um, but I'm really curious to see how those players fit in, especially because because G didn't play against Louisville, and typically I think of Norelia as a player who might play in a sort of similar position to G or Jordan Haitama. And surely Jordan could use the rest because she's played a lot of near full 90s, if not full 90s. But I'm also curious to see how, obviously Jess Fishlock is a brilliant player, and no one is going to question that. If you have a Jess Fishlock healthy and available, you play a Jess Fishlock. But at the same time, you know, she's probably, her and Meza are probably the same position, right? And I don't think Meza has come off in any recent games.
Jesus.
She's played a lot of minutes, and her partnership with James Turner has been really, really solid. So obviously Jess and Anghra James Turner benefit from knowing each other and their style of play from Wales. But Sam Meza has been so good and so important defensively that
Oh my
I wonder how Laura manages that. Obviously, we don't know how many minutes Jess is going to play. My guess is somewhere like 15, 20,
God.
just because she's been out for so long. And you certainly don't want to rush her back and have her be injured, especially right before she flies to Europe to play for Wales. Um, so, hopefully Sam's how well she's been playing allows them to be as cautious as they need to be with Jess. Um, but we're so used to seeing the team really almost reliant on Jess being in the midfield, or at least kind of knowing that she's going to be there. She's been such a steady presence there for so many years. Um, and Sam Meza has really stepped up in that role majorly. So I'm curious to see if that means Jess gets played higher up, or if that means Jess comes in for Has and Sam goes a little bit lower. I'm just curious to see how that pans out with her and Coco coming back, and obviously the creativity they can bring. I think Coco's a great kind of end of game player to bring on because she brings so much energy and fierceness on the ball, and some really fantastic creativity. And I think I would love to see Jess run at tired legs instead of having to be the one who's coming off in the 60th minute because her like calf is cramping again, because I feel like that's happened so many times. But it'll just be interesting to see how they're integrated back in, because an issue that the team hasn't necessarily had in at least last year is having a lot of talent that could start and maybe even should start, but will be on the bench. I'm thinking like G against Louisville, right? Like that is a starting caliber player that did not play at all. And we have no clue if there was an injury or anything, but there's it's a good problem to have that you have so much talent that you have to figure out where to place
Yes.
it. My question is, how long is it going to take to figure out where to place it? Are they going to just be playing a lot of different lineups a lot of different times? Will that mess with flow and communication and sort of the good defense they've had going? So I think there's just a lot of things that'll be really interesting to see how they pan out. I have no clue. I'm just fascinated and interested to see.
Two things.
Yes.
Sam Meza has played full 90s dating back to the Angel City match when
Yeah.
she only played 61 minutes.
Yeah.
Her start to the season was interesting. 1 minute against Gotham and then 20 against North Carolina.
Because
Um,
Jess was starting. Jess was healthy, so
yes,
Jess was starting.
yes. Um, so going back to Anna Maria, I did listen to the Otter. I asked Laura if she would be available or if she would miss this upcoming match. She goes, she might do. Yes. So I'm assuming she's just being coy, but
I mean, she'll have to be on the injury report if she
oh,
is
oh, we
if
won't get
if
that till tomorrow.
right. But if she will definitely be unavailable, we will know. If she's like questionable, we'll know as well. We
Yes.
just won't know until tomorrow.
So that was Anna Maria. Sophia is an interesting one, okay? Because one of the main reasons I made it down to training on Tuesday, obviously going to, get this, time that's available. But, Sophia Huerta has her loan basically done with I don't how do you say the new name? Because they changed the name, right?
I'm not even going to talk about it.
That's the whole thing.
Just call them
Um
OL. We don't care. It's
yeah,
OL.
they're OL. Yeah, exactly. And so I asked Laura, I was like, do you have any idea when she'll get back? Because I know officially in the press release that we got initially was that um she wouldn't be that like the loan goes through June. And so um Laura's not sure. Um she she thinks she might be around before June. She doesn't know if she can actually train before that because I think the end of
They
June is when it's slated to end.
Well, they also don't have the roster space for her currently.
This is true.
I think
Um,
Sally Menti was on a short-term deal, so I don't know if they
through
have
the
to
end of
wait.
June.
They have to wait for that deal to end. They also probably are going to have to send another player on loan or something when they take Ryan Brown off of SEI.
Yep. So
So I think it's the roster numbers that are probably the biggest hurdle there. My guess is that she'll be back home, to her home that she owns with her fiance and her dogs. I love her dogs. Um, sooner rather than later, because she actually didn't play in the last game, but she has played her final game for OL. They don't have any more games.
yeah,
Um, so she is done over there. It's just a question of it's a question of paperwork essentially.
yeah. And that's basically what Laura said. Like, and they wanted to give her a physical and mental break, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I kind of figure we probably see her in August or something.
Yeah, maybe after the international tournaments. Hard to say.
That's what I was thinking, and that's kind of what I got from that.
I
Yes,
don't know if
she.
they have to wait for a window to bring her back.
I don't think so. I don't know. What told me about it most was Laura being confused about it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Leslie wasn't there. Leslie had some event at Lumen Field. I would have just asked Leslie. But Leslie will probably see this because she has. Hi, Leslie. Um,
Access. If you can give us
so
an
if you
answer,
can
please.
if you can answer, please drop it out in the comments below.
Yeah, let us know.
Um, yeah, she did confirm. She said it after the post match, I believe. I think it was post match. It might have been pre-match, but anyway, one of the pressers surrounding the Louisville game that Jess and Coco would play, and she doubled down on that. Um, she didn't give any like minutes restriction. I would have answered that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both coming
Mm,
back from muscle injuries that have had them out for weeks. So
yes. Laura always said it was muscular. I don't think we talked about it on the show, the last show, I think because it hadn't been official yet, but I think during the last pre-match, Cassie Miller will be out through the summer, is
right.
what Laura said. So that's not great to not have your veteran backup keeper. Because I
Also
mean, it's like,
means they'll probably need to sign another one
oh yeah.
because normally you
I
want
haven't seen
three.
one at training. What
Neither
this
have I.
what they've done is that I've seen, at least during the open ones the last few weeks, is they'll have one of the Sounders Academy guys there.
Yeah.
So it's always funny. I looked over at one of the news channel people. I go, it's weird hearing a man here, like a man yelling from the goal. Because one of
A
them was
man that's
really
not
vocal.
British, to be clear, because
This is true.
Scott,
This
you
is
can hear
true.
real loud.
And sometimes Lloyd, the goalkeeper coach, occasionally, but he does
Yes.
have an accent as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's I'm trying to think if there are any other sort of notes. Oh, Ryan Brown. Yes, you mentioned Ryan Brown, which is a good one because Ryan Brown has been increasingly in, sort of team drills. She'll be in them. It feels like more and more every time I see her, and then they'll have her do individual work, which makes sense. Again, you're coming off of an ACL injury. So, oh, and then my last thing, sorry, I wanted to get all these sort of injury notes out with Jess and Coco is that during the sort of like actual, I don't know if you'd call them scrimmage, but like legitimate where they had lineups out there. Coco and Jess were in essentially like the second team. So, and I figure you already kind of mentioned this, but yeah, I don't imagine either of them starts. So,
There's no reason to rush their injuries because
no,
you've been getting results while they're out, right?
you've
And
been
that's
getting
that's
results while
what's
they're out,
important. And
and you want
you
them
want them
long term.
healthy for later in the season, right? Exactly. Like
Yes.
that is going to be the priority. It should be the priority. So, especially because Jess had so many injuries in recent years, and with the Euros coming up, they're not going to risk anything, and they shouldn't.
So, shall we go into the call ups? As we'll go through some of the like the kind of there's some I feel like that are just kind of layups at this point. You
Mm-hmm.
know, nice
Like
to
you
see
going
Lynn
to
back.
South Korea.
Yeah, well, like, yeah, we'll go through the layups. Like Jordan Heidema with Canada has and sorry. Uh, really quickly. I don't know when do we figure out about Lily Woodham? Because I believe her Crystal Palace season is over. is it the same sort of timeline as end of June? Because I feel like when we got the first the like regular season finalized roster, it said both of them are end of June.
Yeah, that's sort of a general, like a typical timeline for loans. My guess is they're just currently trying to find a team to either buy her contract or another loan for her. I just don't think that
She's coming back.
I'd be very surprised to see her come back.
Yeah.
Um, you know, especially with Sophia and Ryan Brown coming back, and the group that you already have,
The group that you already have,
um,
yes.
it has been doing really well. I don't think there's anyone that she overtakes. You simply don't have the space for her, and it's not like the group that you have is old either, right? Like the oldest is
No.
Lou, the next oldest is Phoebe, and then everyone else is like 25 or younger,
Yeah.
right? They're all very young, so there's no reason to be like, oh, we need to move on from this player and focus on Lily's development or something. I can't claim to have watched a ton of Crystal Palace, but they weren't good as a whole. And I don't, I'm not sure how much having played in the WSL would have helped her readjust to the NWSL. I just, more than anything, I just don't think there's space.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's the big holdup.
so I think there will, in a month or so, hear something about another loan or a permanent transfer like we did with Luani. Um,
Ah, Luani, yes.
right, because she was playing overseas and they, decided that that was the, best thing for her. Um, so I think, Leslie, tell me if I'm wrong, but my guess is that Leslie is in conversation with other teams, and trying to figure out some solution that is best for her and the team, because they are, they're very committed to the players that they sign at any point in time, and they're always going to try and find the best solution for them and the team. They're not going to throw someone under the bus and be shitty about it. So I assume that they're taking their time to find something that works for both parties.
Hey, Luani in 19 La Liga F, sorry, La Liga F games, um, 4 goals, 4 assists. Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. That was a name I had forgotten. Nice shout.
Yes.
Um, yeah, Jessen has to Wales. Sorry, looking at Wales, who did I think of
Mhm.
was Lily Woodham. So that's what helped me remember that. Yeah, G, um, with Korea, yeah, Anna Maria with Switzerland. Like, these are a bunch of Coco, yeah, with Haiti, like a bunch of slam dunks. Obviously some of the biggest one, and one that we talked about at length, was Claudia, and Claudia saw was Claudia Dickey, being named to the US Women's National Team roster. And a lot of folks were also excited to see Lynn Biondolo back with the US after I believe she missed a little. Did she miss previous camps with
She had
injury?
missed the last camp from the injury she picked up like right before the season started.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
So that, and then the group of children, um
Yes.
this is factual information. I'm not being a dickhead. I just generally am a dickhead. The U23 US team will feature Maddie Darlene, Jordan Bugg, Emily Mason, and Sam Meza. You want to talk about, the defenders, and, that group being younger. Emily Mason is kind of one of the names that I think of with that, because I mean, early on in some of the early matches, they trusted her with decent minutes, not a ton. I think she did make a start though.
I yeah, I want to say she started against North Carolina.
I'll find out in 1 second.
It was because other players were
Yep.
injured. I will say Mason was the name that surprised me the most, just because she hasn't played a ton recently.
Oh.
Not that I don't think she's not deserving. I'm just curious what Emma Hayes watched and was like just in terms of like there's not a ton to watch because she hasn't played a ton.
Yeah.
And I feel like pretty much all of the other players on that list, Maddie is the only rookie or is one of like four rookies this season to have started every game. Jordan Bugg has started every single game. Sam Meza has been just out of this world the past 5-6 games. Um, I think they're all very deserving, but I was surprised to see Emily Mason, and I'm um, just because there are a lot of U23 players in the NWSL, and also
Mhm.
I believe there are 5 players on the roster who are older than 23.
Oh,
Um, because there's a certain number of players over the age that you can include, and I don't totally remember how that works, but I do remember seeing that. Um, so I'm I'm interested. I think it's just a great opportunity for her. So excited, that she gets to train with that U23 team, and I love it. I think Jordan Bugg has sort of been in the U.S. youth national team conversation for a while. Obviously, she won the U17 World Cup with Emery and Maddie already. Um, or sorry, U20 World Cup. Why did I say U17? My God, U20.
It was like that seems young.
Yeah, no, like she could have been on the U17 squad, but it was the
Wasn't
U21.
it the one you specifically like? I watched this one.
I did.
Yep.
Um, so that one's not surprising to me. Maddie's form again, not surprising. Sam is the one where I think her NWSL performances have played her into that position. Um, because you watch her on the field and she is an absolute top player. So I'm super excited to see that for Sam Meza. I think she is so deserving of it, for how big she has come up for this team. I mean, Jess Fishlock is a small person, but those are massive shoes to fill. Like that is a legend of the city, of the game, of soccer, of Wales. I mean, everything. And that was a really tough position she came into, and she has exceeded expectations and set even higher expectations for herself every single game. And outside of the Houston game where everyone looked kind of off, she has been fantastic. And even in the Houston game, she still had a lot of good plays and played really important defense. So it's exciting to see that NWSL performances do matter when it comes to U.S. Women's National Team call-ups, whether it's the senior or a youth team. And it's not just a camp, right? They actually get to play some games. Um, so I'm so so thrilled for her. Honestly, I think she is so deserving of it. Again, part of why I'm curious to see what happens when Jess comes back, because she has really stepped up to fill that role, and her performances are not going to be easy ones to just take away. Um, so yeah, surprised by Emily Mason, but really excited for her. We talked about Claudia last week. She is so deserving of this. I think the quote I saw from Emma is that, like, the stats don't lie. She is one of the best goalkeepers in the NWSL right now. And I was like, yes, that's freaking right. Laura knew it. We knew it. We all knew it. We all
Legitimately
knew
was almost verbatim. The
it.
data
Yeah.
don't lie. Claudia
Yeah.
Dickey is probably the best performing goalkeeper in the NWSL this season. I saw that. I was like, please,
She
yes.
is. She's been absolutely fantastic. And Lynn, I think, is an automatic call up at this point in her career. But it's still, it's good to see her be with that team, especially because she was overlooked by the U.S. Women's National Team for so long. It's always nice to see her continue to get those call ups and be recognized as sort of an important veteran on that team, and someone who can impact a game defensively and offensively. Um, so I didn't know we were getting a U23 list. So it was fun to like see, oh, there are four more players that are leaving for the international break. Great that everyone's going to come back exhausted, especially because I think they're flying to Germany, so that's lovely. Um,
Laura's probably pissed about that. Like, happy for her players, but like,
yeah,
shit.
but like, oh, do I really have so many players fly to Europe? There's a lot of players flying to
Wait, so
Europe.
how many players are gonna be?
I
What's the roster size?
it's like 26,
So
27.
you're almost losing like half of your group in a
It is
way.
nearly half your group, yes.
Jesus Christ.
So it'll be a lot of small training sessions for them for a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but you know, I, I'm really hoping that we see Claudia's U.S. Women's National Team debut. Obviously, she was called into camp before, but didn't actually get to play. Um, so I hope that not only do her performances earn her that call up, but they earn her that first cap, and uh, let her show her stuff, because people who haven't watched the Reign, maybe it's not a name but Laura is 100% correct. She has every talent and ability to become the next number one goalkeeper for the U.S. Women's National Team, and that's that's why they drafted her. That's why they've put so much time and effort and wanted to keep her. They're not stupid. They knew what they were doing. They knew the potential that was there, and she is, and she still has further to go, and that's the great thing. Like that's what you want to see is players with 2 years to a World Cup, and they still can get better, and they're already playing great. So really, just excited for all of them,
Can we
honestly.
sign her to another extension? Can they
I know. I am like, Leslie, when are we gonna get some more extensions?
Leslie,
Hello.
I had to look up that contract. I was like, how long is she?
What did
All
she
right.
sign through?
This year,
Yeah.
if I can tell properly. It's tough with some of these. Like again, some leagues, it's a lot easier to look at that. Um, let Claudia cook. I need actual clause here.
We
We don't
really
have.
do need
We
that.
need the clause. We'll figure it out.
Someone
Get
please, I'll
Laura
pay.
soundboard. Claudia clause. Um, yeah, you kind of already touched on the internationals there. I don't think any like again
Yeah, I
outside
have a
of
tendency
the
to do that.
U23s. I almost said U20s.
Right.
U23s and Claudia. Everyone else feels like a slam dunk at this point.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything in particular you want to look at before we kind of wrap this up? Because it's already been a pretty decent one. I mean, forgot last
Yeah.
last week.
I know. I feel like we probably have gone long enough for one game.
Yeah,
Uh
because
yeah, I don't think I have anything else in particular. I think there's, some minor concerns of note to be aware of, but overall there is so much to be excited for with this team. Because as much as it's semi concerning the lack of goals, I also think it means that this team has further that they can go. And Laura has
yeah.
talked about it is like our team is getting results and we're nowhere near our ceiling. And that's what's exciting is that they're going to get better. Not and they haven't been bad to start. So I think there's a lot to be excited for. Hopefully, more fans will show up to the games, although they don't have one for a while after Friday because of
Yeah.
the FIFA Club World Cup, which we'll see how that pans out. We also don't totally know yet how their training is going to be affected because I believe Starfire will be moved.
Oh.
But there are
Oh
only
yeah.
games here for like 2 weeks
Yeah.
because it's just group stage. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But I think generally just a lot to be excited about. Super happy for those individual players who are really getting that recognition and those opportunities. And, I think the team is only going to be better for it.
One thing, and I like you mentioned fans, and I know I shouldn't feed into it, but there was, I think on my last like injury update thing, I made the templates. As I mentioned last week, I made the templates. Um, Someone was like, I think we signed Fishlock for a season too long. I was like, and there was something about Lou in there too. And I'm like, I'm just tired every like the last few years of Sounders fan. And don't get me wrong, it's good that there are Sounders fans who are actually paying attention to a club that's semi-consistent in this city and not just one that
Oh,
needs to turn things around in the summer and go on a long run. Um, I think there are a lot of Sounders fans who don't, with respect, don't know what they're talking about with the originals in Fishlock and Barnes, and they see them get knocked up, or they're seeing them at the end of their careers, and that's what they're taking them for. And don't get me wrong, I haven't covered them for their entirety. I was watching them in middle school at Memorial Stadium. Calm down.
same.
Um, yeah. So, but like seeing there really should just be a Fishlock cam during games. So even on the bench to
She is
see
your player coach, 100%.
she's your player coach. That's your engine. Like it, not only that, but to say sign her like for a season too long, not realizing the context of this year for her is just it's blasphemous. I'm starting to use the word blasphemous more often.
Okay.
Um, and same with Lou. Like again, you can watch any rain match with Lou Barnes, and you talked about this last week with um
The five back?
excuse me. well, I think just with having her like to coordinate the defense,
Yeah, her
right?
voice and
Because
her
of how
knowledge.
out of sorts they can be,
Yeah.
right? Like that's an underrated factor. Seeing like she's sure she's not going to be able to keep up one-on-one with the players coming down the wing for Kansas City or Orlando. Don't necessarily need her to be able to do that.
Well, and that's, to be fair, that's never been her thing. She has
Yeah.
it's speed has never been
No.
that would be like saying that like Megan Rapinoe's thing was being faster than her opponents. It was not. It never
Yeah.
was. It
So
was the
stuff like
footwork or the
that.
services and the set pieces. Like Lou Barnes, one, her set piece services have been pleasantly impressive. And, you know, sometimes, yes, it is an issue to have a slower defender. The good thing is there are a lot of fast ones around her, and there is no one who is better at timing their tackle to stop a player who is faster than them, right? Like there is no one better at accommodating for their lack of pace. Like
And
you cannot convince me that Lou Barnes is not one of the best defenders the NWSL has ever seen.
that's not a debate. Yeah, no, easy. And I mean, like Laura Harvey isn't here to play like participation trophy ball. Like
No, no.
Lou Barnes earns 20,000 plus minutes in the league through earning it, right?
Yeah,
Like this.
Laura
So I
loves her
don't know.
players, but she is not giving anybody pity minutes or,
Oh,
like big name minutes. She is giving them their
yeah,
minutes
big name
because they have
minutes. Yeah,
earned them. Like,
yeah.
yes, they have a relationship with Laura, but also Lou and Jess would be the first to be like, they're playing better than me. Like, yes, they should get the minutes. Like, though that's the kind of players they are. They're not they're not selfish. They're not particularly full of themselves, and they are always 100% all in for the team. And is it very unfortunate that Jess has not been healthy lately and is getting older? Yes, absolutely. Does she also 100% deserve to finish her career in a Reign jersey? Yes. And if she doesn't, I will actually be angry. Um, unless she wants to like go play at home in Wales for like a year or something, like whatever, we'll allow that. But like she is a Reign player through and through. And even when she's not on the I mean, it's the same thing that Maddie Darlene talked about when Lindy and Dolo was injured. Like, yes, it sucked that she was injured, but you still had Lindy and Dolo in practice, teaching your forwards what to do.
Yeah.
Sam Meza still has Jess Fishlock in practice, like helping her, teaching her. Like, and Jess is a brilliant tactical mind. Like the reason her and Laura have, I think, got along for so many years is because they are very similarly tactically minded and fascinated by tactics. And, you know, some people don't like when you maybe have an older player to be that kind of player coach, but I think that you don't see a lot of winning teams that don't have one of those. Was certainly like when Pino made the 2023 World Cup roster, people weren't a fan of that, and sort of thought it was a waste of a roster spot. But experience matters, knowledge matters, and
Yep.
it's not like she doesn't still play at a high level. If you watched her against North Carolina and that goal that they scored, she is still playing at a very high level. She just, her it's not been lucky with injuries lately, and it's really unfortunate. But she's gonna, I mean, she'll play 60, 70 minutes a game for Wales in the Euros. They'll probably have to manage it a little bit because of how close the games are, but she is still a force to be reckoned with, and make no mistake about that. So, I think it's hard because she's not been available. So it's easier to say that they signed her for 1 year too long or whatever. But, I think another thing that comes to mind is Laura when they signed Emery Adamas, talking about how she wished she had a year with Megan
Uh,
before she retired because that's the player you want to learn from. And right now, I feel like Sam Meza is learning from Jess Fishlock and getting so much out of it. I think even Has is probably learning from her, and obviously she gets that from the national team as well. But
but this is such like a more day to day, like national team, right? That's camps
yeah,
every what few months.
Yeah, this is like you are getting one of the best players of all time helping you every single day,
Yep.
encouraging you every single day, helping you figure out what the right decisions are, just encouraging you to keep going. I
Being
mean,
around you off the field too.
yeah, and Jess is one of those players that really will give her all on the field, and I think that even when she's not on the field, I think that translates. You know, it's like I think it was Lynn talking about the running that Sam Meza does every game, and you see how
Yeah.
much she runs, and you see the efforts that she puts in, and you see her making these big blocks and everything, and it makes you want to do that too. You're like, if they can do it, I can do it because I'm not going to be putting in less effort than my teammate, right? So I don't think as much as it sucks to not have her on the pitch, I think Sam Meza has been great, and I think Jess Fishlock is a legend that you keep on your team if you can.
Yeah. No, again, I know it's delusion and I try to not feed into like dumb delusion, but I just, especially because I've seen this a few times, but I haven't remembered seeing it since we've done this show. And I was like, let me bring this to someone who understands the magnitude of these players and let her go off on it. Right. Um, yeah, to go back to I guess kind of put a bow on this whole thing, right? And finish up with this sort of Jess and their impact, right? Like I remember, I think it was some point earlier in the season, or it might have been last year, hell, but it was after a match, and if you ever stayed around for a soccer match, you'll see, this goes Sounders or Rain, right? I've seen it for both. Um, there are the players who don't get as many or didn't like get a large amount of minutes. They're running. Some of them have get like little drills after, right?
Yeah, doing conditioning.
Jess was hurt. Oh, it must have been last year actually. Yeah, because Z was there. Sad. Um, Jess was hurt, but she stayed like I was there a good hour or so after at Lumen Field. Jess is there watching and yelling and encourage like she doesn't have to be there. She's with her partner. They could have easily just gone and fucked off and done whatever they wanted to. They're there talking to these younger players that that shit matters. And so often it feels like with some stuff like that, when I ask about it, this is part of me growing in my career, but it's just essentially the question is, well, why do you care to do that? Because, and again, you can phrase it better, but it's like you could just easily not give a shit. You could pack your bag, go home, like see some players leave. Like I see Maddie Darlene, Jordan Heidema, and a few other the younger players after practices this year begging to do more drills because they want to get better in their finishing. Like they're begging Scott Park. They're like, please, more service. Like they're trying to get so I don't know if shit like that rubs off. It's important. So
Well, and the thing I would add to that is I think a lot of people think that to get better, the only thing you need is like personal motivation and to try harder.
mm,
And while that is a big part of it, doesn't really matter how hard you try if no one is teaching you and helping you. Because what are you learning then? Like, yeah, sure, you can maybe learn to, maybe kick a ball slightly differently or do this thing, but how do you know what is the right pass to make or the right positioning to be in? Like, you learn those kinds of things through greats of the game. That's why it's so important to have a good coach, right? Because you're not going to get better if that coach can't teach you better things to do. And so, as much as that individual effort is very important, and probably like 80-90% of it, to be really, really great, you need really great people helping you and teaching you and pushing you to be better and giving you their wisdom. Lynn talked about, wanting to help Maddie be better than she ever was and hopefully, avoid pitfalls that she had in her career and stuff like that. Like, you want those kinds of players because they've made the mistakes, right? You don't need to make that mistake. You can make a different mistake and you will make mistakes, but you can avoid the ones that people already know to avoid. Like, there's so much to be gained from having someone knowledgeable and who wants to teach around and play. Jess is both one of the most knowledgeable players in the game and one who really wants to support the younger generation and teach people and make them better. And I really I don't think that's a replaceable thing in any way, shape, or form.
all of that to say, any doubt about those two is blasphemous.
Yes,
All right.
should not be around us. We don't
No.
approve. Don't appreciate.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I need my Laura Soundbird. Um,
Sound bird.
Soundbird. Yeah, we'll get one of those
Yeah.
too. Claws, soundboard, soundbirds.
Yep. Yep.
Goodness, I gotta remember who they play now. Oh yes, Washington. Ooh, the Spirit. The Spirit are always such a pain in the ass. God damn it. Oh my
But
God.
they're very injured and they've been letting in a lot of goals. So this is another one where I'm like, I'm looking to see multiple goals scored and to not let goals in because they have also scored a lot of like stoppage time game winners.
Oh
So,
Jesus.
so that's where I'm like, if you're holding a 1-0 lead until 10 minutes into stoppage time, that may not matter because they have scored many stoppage time goals.
So Laura's gonna have like heart and throat till like she's basically on the field post match, basically.
Might be a little bit of a stressful one. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
You never know. See how it pans out.
Um, this is a tough one for folks who because there's largely a crossover, right, with Rain fans and Storm fans.
Yeah, lots of
So
us gays.
yeah, the Rain match on the 23rd against the Spirit. That's Friday the 23rd. Oops, I went into the Storm media site. That's not gonna help me right now. Um, is on May 23rd, Friday, 7 p.m. start. If you're not attending, you can watch it on Amazon Prime Video. I'm sure Bella will have it up on Amazon Prime Video from
Yeah,
the Storm media seating. The
yeah.
Storm play at the same I almost said I did say exam, yes, exact
Hmm.
same time of 7 p.m. It's their home opener
Yeah,
against the Phoenix Mercury on Ion.
yeah.
Oh, I gotta use Ion. Bella, can you just like FaceTime me the game like this, and I'll just watch it like that? Fucking Ion. God
You
damn
can
it.
get it on like Tubi or something. Freebie, all of those ones. That's your
Sure.
best bet.
Something. I'll just hack into the CPA security feed. It's fine. Um so you've got your choice. I would just say that's a
Watch
difficult
both.
decision to make. If you're going to
Whichever game
attend,
you're at, have the other game on your phone in your lap.
yes. If you're going to attend, if you have nothing to do on Friday, go to one of these things. Like actively go and support them. Um, yeah. So goodness, until we see you from after the Spirit match, take care of yourselves, be well, do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all the away games for Seattle Reign FC this year?
Away games. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See y'all here.